Hola community, it's Pablo Vazquez here with another episode of Blender.Today live on a Monday. Yes, Monday. Let's see how this one goes. On Fridays, we have at the studio, the Blender Animation Studio, we also have the weekly. There are many meetings. Mondays, I think, feel a bit better. And also, it's nicer to go through the new updates that I've been trying to make short videos of these updates, but also want to make like a more of a round update because it gives a lot more. When I make when I tell about the feature in live, I can actually talk and get feedback from you right away, which makes it a lot better for feedback, for getting community involved in the new stuff that are here in Blender 2.91. We have 2 days. The 16th of September is the window for new features, as in new big features in Blender 2.91. The window where anything can happen, really. 2.91 is going to move into Beacon 2. Beacon 2 means that the Blender new features for that release are going to be not gone forever. Sometimes we've seen improvements that are really big in that term, but they should only be related to some other big feature that was added in the Beacon 1 period. So to avoid having too much new code in Blender and make it unstable, because then there is like 1 month or so, more than that, 6 weeks of just fixing, then another round of fixes just for 2 weeks. It's gonna be just fixes, basically. That's where the window for 2.92 is gonna open. So yeah, lots of interesting things to talk about. How's everybody doing? How's the chat? Is the sound fine? How do you do sky in Blender? We get that question. Actually, how do you do sky? It's much easier now. In 2.91, it's just a node. It's the Nishida node on cycles, and on Eevee there is a sky texture node that now works there. So how's everything going here? Blender.Today is Blender.Today is the website that actually redirects to the Blender community website, where you can ask the questions. There is a thread there for that I made a while ago, and there's already 6 questions. So whatever you have that you want to know about that I can answer, I'm gonna try to answer it here. Or if you know the answer, it's even better, because sometimes there are things that escape me. Also, vote the questions that you want to answer, want to get an answer, so they go to the top, and then I can mention them before. So let's see what is a bit of new. Let's see. A bit of news, because here I started making the same list that I used to have before. Like, it's a Google Doc with a whole lot of bunch of features, and this some of them I already mentioned them, but some of them are actually new. Today, for example, if you use if you're familiar with the Alembic, for example, Alembic export, now Alembic can export custom properties. We're preparing a video with that. That was today I talked with the Dr. Steven, the developer that made this feature, and we're gonna maybe find a file that can show that the potential of this, because Blender still can't import Alembics with custom properties. That's going to take a bit more work, because there's no way to actually, Blender doesn't have a concept of this kind of data to import. So in that will be in the future. First, export, that's already in master, so if you compile Blender, you can try it right again, or if you want to use it, you can compile. You can check Blender tomorrow. Not Blender today. Blender tomorrow, the Blender Builder website, where you can download the upcoming version of 2.91. I'm just curious, just a question. How is 2.90 for all of you? How is it going? Is it bug free? As there will be a 2.90.1 for sure. There are some fixes that are being gathered, and then there will be an update release. But so far, I think it's going well. Here, Ralph in the chat, it says that it's going good. It's not bug free. No, nothing is bug free, I guess. But some people are still using 2.83. Remember last week, actually, we had in Blender.org, you have the LTS, the new LTS version to keep using 2.83, but with all the improvements of the bug fixes that to make it even more stable. Arguably, it could even be more stable now than 2.90 because it doesn't have any new features from 2.90. It just have bug fixes. Those fixes, when possible, they're also in 2.90. So they are. So this should be even be more stable. If you want something stable, keep using this one. This release is very particular because it's the only LTS release that actually has a new feature in it. New feature if you use Steam VR. If you do have a VR set and you have like a HTC Vive or a Valve Index, now you can use it thanks to the Steam VR update. This is already in 290, but it's now in 2.83. Also has been backported. This is great news because a lot of people use these headsets and they haven't been working before. This works on Windows. Here it says Windows, but also on Linux. This is a developer preview though. You need a developer preview version of SteamVR installed on your computer. So handle with care. And the reason why this made it into the actual 2.83 LTS is because it's not so much a Blender feature, but it's more of a Steam VR. It's a library that it got updated, and then Blender just was a matter of removing some of the workarounds to not use that library, basically. So that was ahead of time, was planned ahead of time. All right, let's get to it. How's the people in the chat? You can ask questions in the here in the thread in Blender.Today. I'm gonna leave here. I'm gonna copy this to the chat. People ask, will there be an built-in game engine? No, for the time being, no. The point is to have a interaction mode sometime in the future. So far, the focus is on the functions branch and having particle nodes distribution, especially handled properly. Then simulation, and then in the future maybe some interactive mode. But if you want to have a game engine inside of Blender with the current Blender, you can try out the project from the people at AppBGE, where you can see the what the game engine could have been. This team actually has brought pretty much the game engine up to like the higher level and using the new viewport. So it's like pretty good from all angles. I haven't used it personally, but I've seen some projects and people say it's actually what the game engine could have been. I can never find the thread of the upcoming session, but only for previous session. For previous session, here in the Blender.Today, you mean? I wrote for managing layers in the outliner like in Photoshop. In the outliner, well, there are improvements coming to the outliner actually, and there are already some improvements that let's open up Blender. This is Blender.Today after all, and there are a few improvements done already for managing the outliner, especially the modes. And now when you have, for example, a mesh, you can, when you have multiple objects, like let's add a monkey, and when you have multiple objects and you are, for example, in edit mode in all of them, you can actually toggle the mode from each one of those. So for example, if you choose a mode, you can switch in here. You can click on the left side. I don't know if you get to see that. I'm gonna make the window slightly larger. Here there's a new column to the left where you can see the mode that you're in. So at the moment, you can switch the mode between the active object while you have them, while they're selected. But the exciting thing will come when you actually have this mode for other, like for other objects, like for other modes, like sculpting multiple objects or painting even better. So far you can switch which one has in edit mode, and you can hold control to add or remove objects from the edit mode. There's a whole bunch of new patches that are coming for the outliner, but this is what it's there for now. There's also some improvements in the navigation. You can use left and right for navigating here, left and right, walk navigation. For the arrows, the right click menu also has been improved. Let me clear my throat. FBX format. Let's use something else. Now FBX is needs some love, but would be great if the industry would move to more open standards. That would make life so much easier for everybody. Will Blender support millions of polygons sometimes in the future? Yeah, well, sometimes in the future is a bit wide. The future, especially in the viewport side of things, is very promising, especially the near future, because it involves switching from OpenGL to Vulkan for the graphics library, for managing everything, not only the viewport but also in the interface in Blender. That would include all the amazing stuff about Vulkan. For those not familiar with it, you can search more about Vulkan and the differences and the how much better, newer, and more future-proof is than actually OpenGL. Also, it would allow in the future to have better baking and the multi-threading. Hopefully, that would make it much easier to handle a lot of things that happen in like compiling maybe shaders or handling many objects at the same time. Baking, I already mentioned. Let's go into the questions. How about switching? First, Issues VFX says, hey, since I see no other questions here, I'm gonna ask another one. Of course, just ask, and maybe make it then one question, so one comment, so people can vote on those, and it's a bit more fair. All right, so the upcoming consoles look very powerful, and the Xbox Series X is rumored to have keyboard and mouse support. Why don't they just sell a computer? Well, it is a computer, but just like a Surface Xbox or something. All right, so if Microsoft allowed the Blender Foundation to put Blender on their console store, is that something you guys would do? The specs of them are pretty much PCs, so I would assume there will be no compatibility issues. I don't think it's like Blender is already in the Microsoft store, so I guess it's more up to them to just open the store for anything, for any app. I mean, if it's an Xbox with a mouse and a keyboard, I don't think it's a Blender that should adapt, but the store should adapt to other to more apps. So it's not only Blender the one that benefits, but also other apps, you know. Let's see. The next question, I'm checking the comment, is will Blender support 3D builders or scanners? There is really good software for that. There is Meshroom. It's also open source, so it's you know, something that is good supporting. Not everything has to be inside of Blender, but something good well supported with your own team. The same for 3D printing. There are so many apps already that why even building it inside of Blender with so many variations out there. So David Vernaglione. Hola Pablo. Ciao Pablo. I read it with an Italian accent. I have two questions if possible. Do you know how many of the outliner features from the last summer of code will be already in 291? Yes and no, actually. We can see in the outliner, let's see, developer, let's see, site developer.blender.org, and that picture it's so dramatic, it's not my background. And then I can do like outliner CSOC maybe. No, that is from last year, but here, because there is a thread where you can actually see all the patent tools that I want to check here. Nathan. So because you can actually see the outliner, all the outliner improvements, but that have been done, they have been split into small patches. These patches are under review right now, and most of them are gonna make it for sure because they already been reviewed. Some of them are even already there, like I mentioned. Some of them are smaller changes. So for example, like they include responsive modifiers and effects in the tree, so you can actually see them with the right icon even, because before they didn't have it. This one, for example, that has the use right click target element for context menu, that also is going to make it, it's already in even. You can drag and drop now objects from the viewport, from the data objects, and then dropping them in the viewport. This will make a copy, and it will make it into the viewport as orphan data. Orphan data is a mesh curve, or any data that is not inside of an object is orphan. Let's see the chat. I have one question, Michael. My instruments, ask the question right away. Once the video starts, I can find the thread on Blender.Today. The problem is that I can never find it early enough to put a question so it can be potentially answered in the session. Yeah, sometimes I try to make the thread right, like way before. Sometimes I either go like answering, like making the thread like right before the live show, so as to, you know, to encourage people that are watching it live to get their questions answered live while they're watching it, so maybe they can follow up. But yeah, both have benefits. One will gather more votes for people that are that can't maybe watch the live stream and then want to ask them beforehand. But yeah, what would be better, making the thread way before, like on Friday, or making the thread right away? Another question in the chat: viewport improvements for objects with more vertices. I already mentioned the answer, but my advice is really just be I mean, how to say it in a way that sounds nice, but use polygons responsibly. You can have objects with millions of polygons, so you can have multiple objects. The problem is maybe one object with millions, too many millions. But if you have one object with 2 millions and another object with 3 million, that should actually work fine, as long as it's individual objects. Well, fine, depending on the computer you have, of course. But yeah. Bastin Jose asks why 2.83 doesn't support Intel HD graphics. It depends on the model, but usually Intel HD graphics, as long as it supports OpenGL 3.3, it should work. If it doesn't work, please report it. As I always say, go to help, report the bug, and it should bring the driver version and all that information from your computer into the report, so it's easier for developers to find the issue. But always, first update your drivers. Update to the latest drivers, see if it works, and then report. Let's see. So, the other part of the question by David. I know this is a long time question. Did something moved recently regarding the updating, refactoring, substitution of texture nodes? Specifically, their implementation with modifiers like the displace modifier. Not that I know. Actually, texture node hasn't been changed forever, which is a good and a bad thing. But it shouldn't be changed anything recently. Maybe someone who knows the answer, maybe they can help. But I haven't seen. I read all the commit logs actually today. I went through all of the commit logs that I had left from 2.90 days, and it should be stable. Like. Nadish asks, which distro do you use? I use Pop OS. Pop System 76 is a version of Linux based on Ubuntu, but it's changed a lot. So it's based on Ubuntu, so I use Debian packages and PPAs, but it changed a lot. So, but for the good, for the better, not for the good. For the good too. Vote and love. Hey, there is a small task that needs Pablo review. Hey, about the UI for switching between objects in sculpt mode. Wait, which Pablo? It looks like a small thing to decide on, but it will improve usability and user experience very much for almost no effort at all. So please, can you take a look at this? Oh, actually, it's me, this Pablo, that have to review this thing. Why I didn't get a notification? Oh, this is April. I was probably crying in a corner for Corona stuff, but yes. This object operator exits and freezes the edit data of the current object and enters the same mode in another one in a single step. Oh yeah, I remember this. Yes, I remember seeing this, how it would work. It's a way to switch quickly. So actually this could somehow help in the with working with millions of objects. Actually, this answers partially what people are asking about Blender supporting more polygons in the viewport. This, for example, is polygon 96 million polygons, vertices in this case, not polys, in the scene. But it's split into many different objects, so that is actually faster. This is supposed to be compatible with sculpt and edit mode. The only thing, I think I checked on this, and the only problem of this review that got stuck is the shortcut to use. I believe so. Let's check. This is actually now assigned to the D shortcut. The mouse drag. Actually, why I didn't get this notification? It was only September 8th. Mouse drag still enables the annotation tool. D and then D mouse drag. Should it be D for? I'm not sure about the D shortcut. Do we use it for anything else? Shift D, duplicating, Control D, Alt D. No, actually, it's kind of free. What do you guys think about the D shortcut to change the object? Is it fast enough? As long as you don't click, it should be fine. It will take. Would it be confusing? Should it highlight, pre-highlight? A bit confused. Let's see. Give me some feedback now live. I'm gonna leave this tab open here so I can answer it. Hopefully I can tackle this today or tomorrow, and hopefully we'll make it into the next release. Kinda random. Middle mouse would be better. Something pen tablet oriented, but I mean D D is next. Is in here in these fingers. Actually, it's in the index, or yeah, in the index finger even. So actually could be fine. The Blender community chat won't load for me. This is not useful. Oh, what about that? It's not about useful, it's about if it's something that you would expect and you would change. The thing is that we don't use D for anything else, and I wonder if it would affect other modes. Like I guess we don't use it for anything else. D for switching, ditching. I will think about it. Let me know what you think. Let's see. Thank you for the reminder, though. I don't know why I didn't get the notifications for that. It's weird. I'm gonna check on that. Errol Herzog. Well, D is annotate. Yeah, D is for annotate. Is if you D click and drag. That's D. So D click and drag. That's this. This will be D with the mouse over. But then how do you make it that it's the same and it does that it does on tap? The thing is not gonna be super fast because it's gonna be on release. If you do it in tap, then you can't do this. You can't do click and drag afterwards. You have to do it on release. So it's not when you press the key, it's when you release it that is gonna make it work. So in that case, gonna feel a bit sluggish because you gotta wait for the finger to leave the button. But yeah, let's see. Next question: when will it be possible to grab and move objects in VR? I have no answer directly for now for that, but with the efforts of Ubisoft, if you haven't checked already, I think in Dev Talk there is a thread where the Ubisoft people have been sharing their updates on that regard. They were interested in that, and they were actually developing their own tools for that. Hopefully one day contributing back to Blender. It's a team of 3 people, which they call a small RD team, but for Blender it's huge. It's 3 people, that's a lot. But it depends on how much time they can invest in it. But the Summer of Code project, together with this, maybe could bring it sooner than later. The developer that integrated VR in the past releases, Julian, he's actually now full-time working on, well, most of the time working on the asset manager when he's not reviewing patches or in meetings and all of that. The next question, Borat, have you seen the recent advancements in auto remeasure? Is there any chance that will be integrated with Blender? I haven't seen recent advancements on well, actually this is very recent. It's a few days ago, and the last time we checked, it was actually very the author got in like was contacted by the developer that integrated Quadriflow in Blender, and there were some very positive, you know, reactions into merging this into like adding auto remeasure as a option for Blender remeasure options that we have now, which are voxel and Quadriflow. This is really fantastic because it takes good care of the poles, which is like you can see where it breaks in some parts, like in a good way, like it opens the poles. So so yeah, hopefully they will check this soon. When asked about integrating it in Blender, I think it was just too soon. When this was shared, it was like a few weeks after it was the first version released, so I think it might take a little while. Here's 1.0 beta released, so I think it's better maybe to wait until it's a bit more stable for that. Next question. So Timur, hola Pablo, I have this question. I purchased a Chaos Explosions plugin. What is that? But the author claims the Manta Flow is bugged past version 2.82. The plugin seems to work fine in 2.83, does not. I was wondering if Manta Flow is actually bugged or his plugin is not updated for the latest version. I have thin threads that seem to point to similar issues with Manta Flow. Thanks for all the hard work, Blender team. I'm rather new to the platform, but I'm enjoying learning Blender a ton. And the community is awesome. It's hard to talk about plugins. I don't even know this plugin. What it does. Something about it making explosions. But I mean, if Manta Flow would be bugged, then it's just a matter of reporting the bugs, right? And the bugs getting fixed, or helping to get the bugs fixed. I guess if a developer can actually make an add-on like that, or like maybe it could also contribute to fixing those bugs, so the add-on can work better, and Manta Flow can work better as well. But yeah, hard to hear. PS, I'm experiencing more crashes in 290 than I had in 2.83, which is understandable because 2.83 it's older, so it's been fixed for longer. Is there any way to narrow down what's causing the crashes? I'm suspecting one of the plugins I'm using maybe. Yes, absolutely. That I'm not saying the plugins are the reason, but every time you start Blender, you want to try it for like if what is making the crash. Always start with factory startup. So Blender-factory startup, or actually this is even better because if you launch it, I don't have Blender installed, I run my own Blender, but if you launch it, you're gonna see that you have, for example, the terminal open, which helps you to see if there is any issue with Python add-ons that are broken, which happens when you have too many add-ons. Maybe they overlap. The developers, I mean, they make their own add-on, and if someone else is using the same kind of place or function names, or if they made a mistake somewhere, or the API changed in Blender and that panel or section is no longer named the way it is, or some area changed and the add-on hasn't been updated, then this could lead to crashes. Yes, so always try in factory startup. Then I would recommend trying to reproduce the bug in a simple file. So if your scene is super big and heavy and you get the crash, okay, remove half of the scene, check if it crashes. If it does, then remove another half, so you get with a 1/4 of what you had at the beginning. Still crashes, keep removing stuff, remove all the nodes, all the world, all the materials, and all, like, just try to narrow it down to see what the issue is, and then you can report it. That is what makes it world of difference, because the time that you spend like trying, because you know the blend file, so the time that you spend making this blend file easier to read for the developers is the time that developers save for fixing other stuff inside of Blender. And also a developer that wouldn't know even what this file is about, or maybe it's impossible to know where the bug could happen. Maybe you say, oh, there's a bug here in the edit mode, but actually maybe it was a broken video in a sequencer strip in another scene somewhere in the blend file that the developer didn't know about. So it's easier if you please can clean the file before reporting. But always, before even attempting to test, just go to builder.blender.org, get the latest alpha, latest version that you can find, and see if the bug is fixed over there. Let's move on. So Vodenromschik, so far 2.9 is good, but I want to see 2 features: history for some operations like bridge, or to avoid Control Z if you have done something wrong, and interactive creation for primitives. Yes, I guess, yeah, that is that's something people are being asking a lot. The bridge thingy, the history for the bridge, I'm not sure how would that work, but for things like interactive creation for primitives, that is only a matter, like if it was a small thing, to have parametric modeling, so to have the nodes to create forms, so you can take advantage of node setups and people can share those presets. I think it's better to go for that approach than to just shoveling whatever like interactive primitives could be right now. Interactive creation, I think you already announced that. It's cool when I give it a like, I get the updated message, so I get the new part of the content. I will scroll down to get the latest questions that I check at the moment of opening this this thread. Let me get some water first and go through the comments on the live chat, which I have here on the side. Here, say hi. A ver. Oh, that was Spanish. I spent the whole weekend speaking Spanish. Now I can't habla inglés. Let's see. I have a question. Your software is free. Then how do you make money from Blender and give updates to it? Because there is amazing people that have joined the fund.blender.org website, which is an official place where you can subscribe to Blender, giving $5, €5, $5, $6 per month as a gift to Blender, as a donation. There is amazing 4,867 people, individuals like you, like anybody that make Blender possible. Also, there are companies that are helping out with whatever they can, sometimes with developers even involved, and that's how Blender keeps growing. But it's a bit of everything. There is also the Blender store. Here you can go to the store, you can get a t-shirt. Before, back in the days, you could get DVDs, and now you can get the Blender Cloud that also helps Blender development and Blender in general, because this keeps the Blender Studio going, which is making not only films that contribute to open content and Blender and testing Blender for tools that haven't even been out yet, but also for making tutorials and improving the Blender content out there. Let's see. Let's continue. Where is it? Oh, I have the window, the chat window here, and I closed it. Let's see. I'm gonna put it aside and let's see. The question. Hello, Pablo. Issues VFX says, recently I was looking to see if it was possible to time remap the whole scene in Blender, and I know Blender has a time remapping feature, but you can't keyframe it. The only other way I discovered is you have to put your scene into the video sequencer, but you can only do this if you duplicate your scene. And then add a speed control strip. To me this feels clunky. There are items that allow you to animate time remap within the layout panel and graph within the graph editor, but they're old. I just wanted to know if there was something you guys have thought of adding. Actually, the time remapping feature is one of those obscure features, to me, is one of those very obscure features that I've made it through time, and so far I haven't seen any updates related to that yet, besides the fact that you can do it with the sequencer. That is so far what I can mention about it. Where is it? In dimensions, time remapping here. If I put my face away, go away face, where is it? Here. Whoa! There. So let's see. Time remapping, old and new. This is terrible. With 100 frames. What? Yeah, what does it mean? No, unfortunately, I don't. I'm not familiar with any updates plans for this area so far. The only thing, yes, unfortunately, is the video sequencer. I don't know if you mean if it's a bug that you can duplicate your scene. I don't think it's a bug. It's a feature, because whatever you have in your scene, you can't add yourself to the scene, because then what would take place first, your actual scene or the scene of the scene that you have in. You know what I mean? You need one scene that is the edit, that has the frame in, frame out, and then you have the other scene, which is the one that actually has the frame range that you want. Especially this part, it's tricky to have it one-on-one. Before it used to be possible, but I think with the new dependency graph, it just wasn't very ideal. Let's see. Next question. I was wondering if there is a specific place to find out if something is a bug or a feature. Wouldn't that be great though? How would you gather that info? Bug, feature. I think it's just needed to ask people. And if it doesn't look like a feature, maybe it's just a bug. Another one is just to report it as a bug, and then you get, no, it's a feature. But that will take time from developers, from triaging bugs. Not very ideal. As the community is super active anywhere. There is a Twitter hashtag B3D, super big in there. On Instagram too. There is even an independent Discord server that you can go in. I heard great things about it. So yeah. Why Blender is too hard? I guess because it's a 3D program. 3D is hard, it's complex, and also because it takes time to polish tools. Even though Blender is a young 26-year-old software, it still has a long way to go. It's getting better though. Pablo Savini asks, hi Pablo, sorry I played dirty. Can you give some love to this super small paper cut? Let's see. Paper cut. Side toolbar slightly expanded on default. I posted this in the old messy thread. I think it went lost. Good idea to post it again. And the sidebar in the toolbar slightly expanded. Just enough to see the icon center, as you can see in the image. I think not even programming need to solve this, but you know better than me. I see the attention to detail. I appreciate it. I I don't know if how hard would it be. Maybe it's easier than it sounds, but sometimes these little changes are kind of hard to make it right, especially when you have different sizes of the user interface. So here it's clearly bigger. If I just make it smaller, there, that's much better. But I'm also like in a bigger size. What if you had my UI in 1? Maybe it's also the same issue. Let's see. Yeah, it's still bigger. Maybe it could happen. The other day there was the discussion that what if sculpt mode would go, it would start in 2 rows instead of 1. And there was already a big issue. The developers were looking into it, but there was a big issue in how to make that consistent. But yeah, it is weird. It is weird. I will maybe Howard, he likes the pixel perfect stuff. Howard from the UI team developer that is added so many little fixes here and there to make the Blender UI pixel perfect. Maybe we can, I'm gonna leave this tab open here, we can poke him and very gently to see if he wants to look into that. Matterform says, will Blender ever finish adding all of its functions to the industry keys? If not, is there a master list we can compare the keys so we can go through and do it ourselves? There is an industry standard key map. I think Blender in the manual, maybe industry compatible key map in the manual here. There should be, here there is. First item of the list, industry compatible key map, and you can find there is plenty of those shortcuts. I think not all of them are there. It doesn't say, yeah, it's not a comprehensive list, but are the most common used keys in the industry. Besides, you can add the ones you want here. You can just go to the key map editor and you should see there the keys that will make it here in key map. You can change and you can see the ones that are being used. It's much more minimal than the current one, than the default Blender one, but still it's a it's quite a departure. I wish we could have like maybe only the navigation to have independently from the industry compatible or not. Some people want to have Blender shortcuts, but the navigation from ZBrush, for example. Let's see. Next, hi Pablo, I'm a UX designer. I proposed a very simple new ad to make Windows management more clear. What do you guys think? Let's see. Let's see. Simple UI improvements for Windows management. Not everything is so simple, but yes, let's see. Windows area customization is a big part of the experience of Blender, but for a new user, it's not very intuitive. I tried to improve 2 parts of it. So, every window area should have an option button on the left side because it's there where the user expects to close it and do an action of it. Left side to close? Depends. If you're on Linux, it's on the right. Well, you can choose. But if it's on Windows, I think by default it's on the right. So yeah, it depends on the operating system. At the moment, the user needs to click a very narrow space between the window areas, and it's not clear how to close them. That is very true. Actually, the area options is very, yeah, you have to click in between the buttons to get it. That I agree. That sounds like a cool idea, actually. I would put it more disconnected from the actual buttons. I would put like a separator or so. But yeah, actually, this sounds like a sound idea. Sounds like a sound. Before and after. Ew. What is this? Make clear to understand that the area type selector, editor selector, is not a common feature like the one just next to it. It involves the entire window. Like a separator. Just changing the icon wouldn't do though. I think it just needs a separator like on the other side. But you see, now we are getting into this, making all the editors just too many buttons in the header of the editors, which yeah, it's kind of tricky. Maybe we can just unify those or add a separator. So before, after. To add like an outline to the icon itself. So every editor will have an icon. Maybe. No, maybe. I don't know. This looks like the window thingy looks like if it was a layout, like a whole workspace. But yeah, I'm curious to see what people think about here in the chat. But yeah, not sure. Have to sleep on it first. Let's see. I like that English expression. Sleep on it. Sleep on a thought. Errol says 2.9 is stable for me. Good job. Thank you for sharing. Kavira, hi, my question is why Blender is too hard to learn. I answered that already some. Hey Pablo, I asked a few weeks back about whether there has been any recent talks about pointiness support for Blender. I mentioned that you have to ask Clement. Any chance there have been any updates? No, I'm sorry, actually I forgot to ask him. The last time I talked with him, it was more about he's been very busy with the bringing Blender to Vulkan. Like, it's a lot of cleanups. If you follow him on developer, if you follow him on developer.blender.org, you're gonna see that most of his commits, there are like GPU, GL fixes, cleanup fixes, VK, Vulkan, OS, Mac OS, multi-VK backend to OS X. That's a good news for the people using Mac OS. So yeah, lots of work. Look at this guy. Saturday, 7 p.m. Instead of having fun party 3 p.m. Yesterday, Sunday, 2 a.m. Dude, what are you doing? 4 a.m. Look at the poor developers. You see? There is work being done overtime to bring updates in to make Blender meet the deadlines. There is really no hard deadline. Come on, it's not that we have big clients. It's just making Blender better as soon as possible. But yeah, isn't that great? And next, when can we expect the motion tracking capabilities for VR devices? Not sure, actually. Haven't read about it. Next, will there be a way to draw a freestyle line between overlapping meshes? To draw a freestyle line? I think the future of freestyle is not freestyle so far, is to have line art, the LAN PR project in Blender, which is making progress actually. It's being it's a way to use LAN PR, like the line drawing, using grease pencil as a modifier on top of a mesh. So you get the mesh, you add a modifier, and it makes a grease pencil object on top of it, which is dynamic. It's a modifier. So that is like the way to go for the moment. That's the development that is going on right now. And of course you can see it in the viewport, which is the big advantage against freestyle, which it can't, at least in 2.8 and 9. It could in Blender internal. All right, next question. Will GPU rendering be available for Mac OS users? That is up to well, it's an Apple issue actually. That the CUDA drivers something wasn't supported over there. That is the main problem. OpenCL should be available. I'm not sure, but yeah, no, don't know exactly a lot about that topic. I'm sorry. Blender, says Grady, recently reached its funding goal for 20 full-time employees. Does Blender actually have 20 full-time employees now, or are you still looking for people to hire? Blender is looking for people to hire, I think, all the time, whenever possible, whenever there is like a promising developer that wants to focus on a specific area. There is always like a hiring process there is always, like, thanks to the development fund doing so well, and now that all the more stable developers are hired full-time, the ones that you really need to be there, the ones that like yeah, like build Blender as a whole and not just one individual features. Those are there, and there's new additions recently to the team. There is Hans, for example, helping out with the UI. There is pretty much anybody that can be hired, and especially if they want to move to Amsterdam, they are more than welcome to start contributing to Blender and to have to be part of the team. The best way to get there, I would say, is to just publish your changes, publish your code, share like, okay, I made this patch and then this patch. And if you are a student, get into the Summer of Code projects. That's the best way to show that you actually can deliver within a deadline, that you know how to plan, how to add a feature, how to receive feedback from mentors, and that is the best. I think that is the best way. Actually, many of the students from the Summer of Code from last year are now, or from previous years, are now working full-time or part-time to Blender. As of 20 developers, actually, I think there is even more. That number is a bit fuzzy because some of them are full-time, some of them are part-time, so there is even more at times. But yeah, you can see more in, for example, if you go to the dev talk, when you see every week the updates of the meeting notes, you're gonna see, for example, that today's updates, I don't know if this has been updated, you can see here already a list of the full-time developers as of today, and there are more people that are working maybe part-time or maybe with a grant, and they don't have to like, this is people that are writing the reports. They're full-time employees, and they have like every week you have to say what do you work and what you're gonna work on next, then the week after. But there are also other people that are maybe hired with a small grant of maybe a few months. They don't have to give that report. But yeah, it's a big team. It's a big team. Let's see. I think I managed to answer all of them. Yes, how is people in the chat? Let's go to the chat. Here, when will Blender 3.0 release? Blender 3.0 will hit the market, if everything goes fine, on August, I think, August 2021. 2021, in 1 year from now. Go to developer.blender.org, or actually go to the code blog, code.blender.org. There is a thread there about the Blender LTS and 3.0 here, release planning, and to 2025. Do you want some long-term planning? This is the plan so far. So May 2021, the next LTS 293 should be out, and then 3.0 for August 2021. Yes, it's about time. But then 4.0 is not going to take another 21 years to finish. 4.0 is, the idea is that it will be the year, actually in 2 years. Yes, in 2 years, 2023, and then 2025, hopefully August 2025, Blender 5.0. Who knows? Like that long term, maybe, who knows? Maybe here, I don't know, Elon Musk wants to build something, and says, hey, here's a bunch of billions, do whatever you want, and then we can get like all the open source people in the world to make a massive Frankenstein monster of 3D, 2D, all these. Let's see. Again, how are you using the screen while shooting? I'm using OBS. OBS, which is an open source. Also, how open source is killing it lately in the last few years. OBS is open source. A lot of people are using open source without knowing it. Like with VLC, for example. Let's see. Why can Blender not export GIF? I would love to see that, since GIFs feel like a hard. It's something to do with the format, with the file format itself. Also to make it cross compatible and stuff. GIMP can export GIFs from a sequence of images from layers. I wonder how they do it though. Raul Patil, how to become Blender developer? Should I learn Python or C++? Learn everything. If you want to become a Blender developer, C++, it's gonna be a better option with some C, of course. But Python is mainly for just like add-ons and stuff, or some operators. But if you want a hardcore performance, go to C++, because that's gonna be better long term. Let's see, when is LangPR replacing Freestyle? When it's ready. When it's ready, that is not gonna be 291 for sure. 292, it's there. It's there. Hopefully we get that. Let's see. Let's see some of the questions up here. What is it with the compositor up branch? I haven't checked that. Compositor up? I haven't checked that. That sounds promising. Hello Pablo, does Blender have a video that explains texture mapping for beginners? Yes, Blender has the, like, if you was just the basic stuff, the fundamentals to be more precise, you can search for Blender fundamentals. Oli, somebody made a training on LinkedIn. Come on, we made a training first. Choose another name. Anyway, the playlist that we that you should watch, that is free for everybody, available since the 2.8 was out, which is also valid for 2.9, of course. Not a lot has changed since then, especially on the UV wrapping and mapping side of things. Here, UV and wrapping, you can search in 6 minutes. Dilongu is gonna walk you through the basics from a cube and just go into more of this awesome world of UV mapping while you need it. Next, let's see when Animation 2020 and is the best. Yay! Animation 2020, that's another project that I already mentioned many times in the past, that it got delayed because of many things in Blender. Corona, especially like the ability to travel and sit down with the people from studios to go through their needs. Many maybe improvements have been done in that area, regardless of being able to travel or not, especially on the performance side of things, on the integration with other formats like USD or Alembic. That's also part of the 2020, but the rigging side of things still very green as in still lacking some matureness. Let's see, more questions. Okay, it's at 6 o'clock, so let's do 5 more questions here. For fluid simulation, which is better, Blender or Houdini? Houdini, of course. Why Steam receives Blender updates last? They should all receive it at the same time. If it's last, it's because... What do you mean last? It's not last. It's usually on the same day. Maybe a few hours later or a few hours before sometimes. I think 2.83.6 release was before on Steam published than on Blender.org, because some stores take a while to accept the build just to see that everything is fine, when in Blender.org we can just update it right away. So sometimes, just to make sure that also in Blender.org we have to wait for all the mirrors around the world to get the latest copy of Blender, the release that we are working on. So sometimes some stores, like Windows Store, also is a bit slow sometimes, because they have to validate that the build that we upload is virus free and is trustable and all the stuff. Where in Blender we can just press the button. So that's the slight delay, but it's never more than a day or max, not even. Let's see. Pablo, will the CC Edge Eye be a standard add-on in the future? I know it's a hack, but it still looks great, and I know people have it. Something like that in Blender would be nice. No, it's a hack. I don't think not just because it's a hack, but it's for adding add-ons to Blender and being able to maintain that is is the most important thing. More important than not talking too much. The most important thing of an add-on is that it's maintained, that it doesn't add more work to the actual developers, to the current developers that are already loaded with so much work. If an add-on gets added into Blender, it should add missing functionality. This is more of like a hack, but you could say that loop tools is also just using just adding a lot of functionality that's not there by using API stuff in Blender. If you, with that point of view, actually everything is like a kind of a hack. But yeah, if there are corner cases, maybe it's better that if it's an independent, that it's in an independent add-on. Number 4, can Blender animate SVG like After Effects? No, it can't. You can though, or is it not out? The SVG exporter, the export grease pencil as SVG. There was import export grease pencil. This actually export Blender Stack Exchange. No, it's not there yet because there is an importer, but the exporter is still being worked on, and that would be amazing if it would happen. Let's see. Hey, I'm 13 years old and I've been using Blender for the past year. Will Blender take on industry like 10 years? Because otherwise I may have to switch to Maya. You are you're free to use whatever you want. If I was you, I would use Blender, because I was actually a bit older. I was 15 when I started with Blender, and it's just so much fun to have everything in one. And I started making models, and then I suddenly, I'm more interested in texturing. I went there, and then sculpting, and then animation, and then you can do everything. Whereas in other softwares, you are more limited to like the one tool, and then you have to export it to another one. And also may have to switch because the student version is not even free anymore. So what? And then you get your first job, and then you have to pay, or I don't know. Just learn. Maybe 3D is not even what you want to do. You're too young for even knowing exactly that. You have to do something for a while to see if you actually like it or not. So I would just try Blender. It's free, and you're gonna see if you actually like it or not, and then move into more other stuff. Learning 3D is just polygons, you know. Textures are just PNGs, just bitmaps that you can they just are the same on every software, and the way you use the software, you can learn it in a week. So not even that much trouble. What if you end up working on Pixar? Then you have to learn Presto, and you have to learn other softwares. RenderMan. Let's see. Is there any shortcut to select all objects in one click? A opens many options in 2.9. What? It doesn't open many options. A is just selection. A. What do you mean? To select all objects in one click. A opens many objects in... No. A is just A. Let's see. If you stay with Blender, you will get a heart. If you go to Maya, you will get a heart of stone. I'm not sure. I'm not related. I've never been into other communities, but I can say that Blender community really is something else. Okay, I'm way over time. 1 hour past. Let's do, what is it? Maybe industry standard settings. Yeah, maybe you have that enabled. If you load Blender by default, A is just selection. If you do all A press twice, it's gonna do the same as in Blender 2.7. Actually, that is a hidden shortcut that not a lot of people know, but it's there. All right, I'm losing my voice, so let's keep it short, because otherwise I'm not gonna be even able to talk later. Where am I? Here. Let's go full screen, please. Yes. How was it? Do you like it again here on Mondays? Do you have fun? Do you like the news slightly mixed with the questions? Should I have more question time? Should I have more news time? Would you watch it twice if I would read like all the million things that I have a list here that I can show you? actually hear all these changes, but you just watch this whole thing, and then I don't even have time to like answer questions, or I would rather just make short videos, which is what I have planned with these features. That's why I split them in sections to make videos of those. But yeah, let me know. Let's talk again next week, same place, same time. Let me know what do you think about it. I will go with the style again, with the song that goes with everything. In 5, 4, 3, 2. The counting down for people that are new is for warning with headphones, for people with headphones. Sorry about the non-warning. Ciao. See you next week. Same place, same time. Obrigado, grazie, dankjewel, arigato, dankeschön, gracias, grazie, tak.